So since this is the Story Studio podcast and we are the storytellers, we thought it might be fun to just sort of do a check-in on where we are in terms, because I think we've learned a lot of stuff this year creatively and Mojo. Like I have some Mojo stories, not Mojo the monkey.
Mojo the monkey from Powerpuff Girls?
It wasn't Mojo. Oh, no. Mojo was also the monkey in The Simpsons. Remember when Homer got a helper monkey?
No, I do, but I remember Mojo, or is it Jojo Mojo? Or Coco Jojo's, the cookies at Coffee.
So if anyone was worried that this would go off topic, the answer is yes.
Within a minute.
Coco Jojo's. At Christmas time, Trader Joe sells Coco Jojo's.
You didn't strike me as a Powerpuff Girls watcher, Sean.
Well, I had both a sister and a daughter. It happens.
Oh, okay. All right.
So anyway, but as far as like, creative mojo, like keeping with the story and what you learn and your highs and your lows. And so it might be interesting to check in with all of us. And so right before we start,
Johnny learned about highs this year.
Once we started recording, Sean started to say, well, like Dave is blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, wait, save it for the air. So what's the rest of that? What, Dave? It's not a trap.
Dave's already feeling very unsure about this episode.
Goodbye.
Yeah, well, I think this is actually really straightforward. I thought it was a good time to kind of check in with each of us because we've all had very different writing years this year than we have in the past. And part of that is having to do with kind of the company transitioning and, delving into the, away from the smarter artist stuff and just right back into the studio. And, we had that's affected Johnny and I both differently, but both, in different ways, but equally. And with Dave, it's different because Dave's always been the one of us who's just kind of the writer, that is his job. So what's going on with the smarter artist side of the business really shouldn't affect him any more this year than it did last year or the year before. But when he was down here for the summit, we had a little family talk and, he bounced back up and it's been almost 9 months since then. So it's a really good time to kind of check in and see where we are.
And I'm pregnant.
Yeah. And, the thing I was saying right before we started was that we have, Dave's just a little removed from the company in a lot of ways. He's kind of floating out there unless I actually give him.
I just got an image. I got an image of a sensory deprivation tank with Dave just floating out there.
Unless I'm very specific.
I would love one of those.
It's like something from Altered States with like imagine.
Oh, yeah, I would love a sensory deprivation tank.
Wait. Are you serious? Because I really actually can't see that.
Yeah, why? No, get me one?
No, that's because Dave thinks that a sensory deprivation tank is just like the ultimate way to be alone.
Yes, big bathtub.
You realize it's not that. You realize it's
well, I wouldn't want to be contained in anything, but I like the idea of floating. What do you think
a sensory deprivation tank
Well,
is?
I don't want to feel enclosed, but I want to be floating.
Dave wants a sensory deprivation town. There's just nobody in it. No light, no sound.
What's a sensory deprivation ocean? Is that what you're looking for?
Or a really, really, really big pool with nobody around. Yes.
He wants basically life to be like in I Think We're Alone Now.
Okay, got it. Okay.
All right. So anyway, checking up with Dave.
So he's just floating out there a little bit more unless we specifically get him on a call and say, hey, I'm checking in with you. How are you doing? It's very easy for him to just kind of be out on his own, doing his own thing. We have story meetings that are company-wide a couple times a week. And even people who aren't writing any stories in the company love to show up to those because they're Dave, because they're fun to listen to, fun to participate in, and we're all storytellers. We also have
what is so damn funny? Listen to him.
I just what Sean is inferring,
because Dave's just kind of out there on the periphery. What's funny too is that this is partly
like Bigfoot, like you see him every once in a while, and he's in the distance.
Oh, a Dave sighting! People, it's funny because in the company meetings, it's like, oh, Dave's here, and everybody does the wave.
Well, see, that's good. If I was to go to every meeting, people get sick of my shit real.
He's created a sensory deprivation company.
So I just thought it was a good time for all of us to check in with all of us and see how the year has gone.
But mostly Dave.
Mostly Dave.
I think
right?
we're alone now.
But because I think that there's things that we have been really successful with individually this year, and there are things that we could do better going into next year. And I think that it's good to just talk about those things out loud, because it makes us more aware of them, and we're more likely to improve and do better if we kind of talk. So yeah, that's why I thought that'd be a good idea.
All right,
Dave.
What's the question?
All right, let's start out with you started this year. Well, I'd say you started this year strong, but you didn't. You started the second quarter strong.
I'd say you started this year strong, but that's not true.
Well, it's not. You actually came in a pretty low place when you got here was, I guess, the end of February 27th, something like that, end of February. But you've always had a hard time traveling, so that's not new. Although the first time you ever traveled, I actually didn't know that about you, because you did such a good job bottling your feelings back then. So
that's what he did when he was engaged, I think.
Right. Right.
I did it for most of my life.
Well, this was like our engagement. We weren't married yet, and he wanted to impress me, so he flew to Cincinnati. I
think I did tell you that it was difficult, because if you recall, I had 2 seats for that flight because I could not. Yes. So even then, I was difficult.
This is the important part of this story.
I got the email from Lori. Like, what the hell's wrong with your partner?
How fat is he?
I said, take it out of my share. Don't say anything. So, okay. So, but this year was Dave's giddy today. So this year was the hardest one. Dave actually had some severe panic attacks before coming, and he called us out before the summit, and he's like,
buy your summit tickets now for 2019, smartartistsummit.com. What will happen?
Dave's final panic attack.
Dave, does Johnny's mic sound a little off to you? Like too loud, maybe?
A little bit, but
yeah. Maybe.
You're just getting back at me for slacking you that yours sounds off.
Oh, I didn't see that. Did you slack? I don't know.
No, well, that's also important to delve into. Let's actually circle
Let's talk
back
all
to
about
Dave's
that.
update.
Okay. All right. Anyway, coming to Austin was really, really hard, and so I don't think Dave really did much in January. It was like really in just preparation for getting here and not dying on the way. I think that was your number 1 through 10 goals in the beginning.
I don't remember January, to be honest.
Yeah, it was not Dave's best month. And when he got here, he was pretty miserable.
Dave's best month.
We got through a few the summit, and it was great. Like
my best month was one day in 1977.
What were you, 4? Is that right?
No, I was 7.
Oh, there you go.
People are going to triangulate my age now.
Yeah, they are. You're dead. It's over. So we went to family dinner, and we basically talked about your health and how it was really time to turn a corner. And it was a hard conversation, but you were extremely receptive to it, and you made some immediate changes. Now, that was back at the end of February, and you saw, like, from personally what I saw, I've been working with Dave for 10 years now, and this was the longest period of sustained growth that I've ever seen. His mood stayed buoyant, his productivity stayed consistent, and I know that he's had to weather a few personal and professional storms in between that time, and still he stayed consistent through most of the year. Now, the last project, really, I'd say, because we really closed some boxes. Like we had a really great run of doing exactly what we said we were going to do, as far as, okay, we've got to write this story, and they were things that were not going to make us money. They were just going to answer our old promises. So we finished all those promises, and then our big franchise, which is supposed to be making us money, still had a lot of residue from the Smarter Artist, also bots and stuff like that, and trying to get the ads out. And so Dave is basically not making money on all the work that he had been doing, which is really demoralizing.
Yes.
So, right. But we are at a new place where we've fulfilled all of our promises, so we can kind of start over with our audience, which is a really important place to be. But I just this is a good time to check in. So you had another project. I actually have not seen this project so far. It's running close to a month late.
I thought it was 2 weeks late.
Okay. Do you think you're going to have it in the next 2 weeks?
I will have it very soon. It will not be a month late.
Okay.
So, but my best so far, was the last thing we did, which was White Space 3. Which
I was purposely not saying names, asshole, because we get our also bots ruined. Would you stop it with that? Oh my God. Do you not know the problem by now?
Edit.
Dave would know the problem if he wasn't floating in space in existential bliss.
All right, so Blissy, yes.
So we're gonna be a bunch of writers that talk about writing but never mention what we're
telling story.
We're telling stories. That's right. We're
Okay,
not talking about our shit. We're talking about our process and stuff.
All right.
So yes, you did kill it on that final promise to our audience.
So that was my best ever coming in on time, which was 1 week late, I believe. Right?
Well,
yes.
it was 2 weeks. And,
okay.
But that doesn't even matter. It was. I actually had to get involved in some of the last episode there because it was complicated. It's not even that you pulled that off. It's that you pulled off what might have been the hardest writing trick we've had in years, relatively close to schedule. That's pretty unheard of. So that was the peak, I would say, of this year. And you've been on one project since, which had a pretty relaxed schedule. But how has that gone for you? Let's talk about the stuff that's been, well, okay, before we get there, let's just talk about the year in general. What is it that helped you to kind of stay focused? Because you were really focused and on for much longer than you ever have been. So what was it that kept you doing that, especially as life was kind of shitting on you a little bit?
Well, because I was tired of sucking, basically. I think
really, it's as simple as it was a personal decision.
Well, I don't like letting other people down, especially you guys and everybody, basically. So I want to deliver. I want to hold up my end of things, and it's really easy for me to get out, not outside of myself, but in myself way too much, where I can't see anything else, and dealing with depression and anxiety just magnifies that. So our conversation was a wake-up call. So I started eating better, and I'm still doing that, and exercising, still doing that, but it's less because I hurt my knee. So but I mean, overall, I think my health physically is better than it has been in a long time. I'm doing all the things I need to do there. The mental side of things has been a little more difficult. My anxiety has been bad, and part of it is I change medication. The medication annoying. I don't feel like getting into all that shit, but also what?
No, go ahead.
But also real world shit interfering and just sort of bad timing on things happening.
Do you mean real world family stuff or Trump?
No shit, my own just financial situation, just different things that have added to my stress, just everything kind of breaking down at once over the past 2 months or so. Just been a constant shit show. And it's been very difficult to stay the course through all of that, added to the whole anxiety thing. So
are
all
you
of
writing
that
every day, or
yes,
is it fits and starts? So
I am writing every day, but there are days where I literally will write all fucking day and get maybe 400 words. It's that difficult some days, and
so
that's annoying. It's very difficult.
And what makes you not stop and just kind of declare the day a loss? Is that just a persistence? Because we can talk about this when we do my update, but I've had some of those this year, and I've usually just kind of stopped, and it's really demoralizing, and I hate it. But I know
there are days I get up and say, fuck it, and I'll try and reset or something. And sometimes it'll work. I'll go out and I'll walk, and sometimes it'll work. And other times I'll like summer was really difficult. I'll go out and I'll walk and okay, my mind is clear, I'm ready. But then like suddenly I'm needed to do something else, and it just fuck that time. So it's just been very difficult to get to maintain the mindset and get into the flow with all the shit that's going on. I feel a little more relaxed now because we've taken care of a few things, and but just this week the transmission on my car died, so now I have no car at all.
Yeah, I got that Slack. Slack was awesome.
So and I hate pitching about shit like this because I mean it's stuff everybody deals with, and like okay, that's life, move on. But I get very easily thrown off. Like it was easy, like, you know, for several months after February to like maintain, like, okay, just believe, do the work, everything will happen, do the work, everything will happen. But as some things start not to happen, or I just feel like, you know, well, that didn't happen the way it was supposed to, the doubt starts to creep in, the anxiety creeps in, and it's very difficult for me to deal with. And it shows in my, I don't think it shows in my final writing because I go and I fix it, but it's more difficult to get where I need to be mentally.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a few questions on that. So when you're having a really shit day writing and you can only get a few hundred words, is that because you write a lot and then you erase, or is it because you just stare and only a little bit will come out at a time?
A little bit of both. Sometimes I will just become, because I'm uncertain about one thing, it'll just be like a rabbit hole of uncertainties, like everything just falling apart. Like, well, this really doesn't work. This doesn't, and I fucking suck. I hate myself, and goodbye.
Yeah, that's what happens to me. There's a real difference I've noticed in my brain if I write in the morning or if I write in the evening. And there's not a difference in quality, to be clear, because I've actually tested this. In the morning, I am pretty confident about what I'm writing. I'll write and I don't really second guess myself. I mean, sometimes I can, like if I'm real tired, or like if I try to write a day after traveling, it's the same as writing at night. And the difference is I just start assuming that everything I write is garbage. And so I'll write and I'll think, wow, that is like, could I have like borrowed a kindergarten to say that better? Like it's just, everything is just terrible. I think my metaphors suck. I think my copy sucks. I think I'm missing.
Did they suck as much as borrowing a kindergarten to make your writing better? I didn't even understand that one.
Yeah, I meant borrowing a kindergartner, but it didn't okay. Come out.
That's like Uber for kindergarten. You can rent them.
It's just
to write for you.
It's just like I feel like I really do start second guessing everything. But if I let that copy sit and I come back to it, it's the same as anything I would have written in the morning. It's just I don't feel the same about it. So the only time I ever write at nighttime right now is if I, for some reason, like I'll have to write a little bit today because I had a story meeting in the morning and I'll have to make that up. And I'll have to tell myself before I sit down to do it that, okay, if I'm telling myself, like if I start feeling like I suck, just write through it because that's more in my head than anything. So that was just a point of curiosity. My other question is, I know that you tend to flail when you're, basically it's like a spiral. When you start to flail, you flail harder, right? It's like somebody who's drowning, like, oh, I'm drowning. So they, move their arms around and it actually makes them drown faster. So you have resources, you have a community here. Why don't you draw on it more? Like, I mean, just as a genuine question, why don't you get on the phone more? Why don't you show up to the community more? Because
I was the story meeting that fucked Sean up this morning, but it was because I needed some help and raised my hand. And so I'm wondering if you do that, how often you do that.
I don't do it. I don't. It just feels like more work to explain everything that's going on than it would be to fix it myself.
Well, you're lying to yourself. Johnny, was it a lot of work to explain that to me to catch me up this morning?
No, I mean, it was a little tedious. I don't know what it was like to listen to, but it took about 10 minutes. I looked on the recording afterward.
I mean, it's not the most super fun thing because you're sitting there and you're listening to be caught up. I mean, for either person, because you have to be patient. You have to listen and give all of yourself because you're absorbing a story that you don't understand necessarily.
And it's difficult. It's difficult for me to show up to the other meetings. Like
because
when
you don't
other
want
people,
new ideas.
the new idea, like when we were doing the next big project that we're going to do.
Good job, Dave.
That we're going to do later this year. Like the minute I started thinking about that, it's like it's like you're struggling with the current thing, so you see this other thing, you're like, oh, that'll be so much easier. That'll be perfect. It'll work. And your mind just starts thinking about it more and more, and it's difficult to stay on track for me anyway. Like new ideas. You're way different. You're way more flexible than I am. Like when I start thinking about something, it's a fucking rabbit hole, and suddenly it's hard.
I actually totally get that, and I think that when we're in between projects for this, once you're done with this one and we go into the next couple of weeks, you should be on every single one of those calls. Actually, unfortunately, Johnny and I are traveling a bunch, so there won't be very many of them. But you should be on as many as you can, and I think that's really good for you to be around that creative energy. It always helps. But before we move on, I would also just say that you should take advantage of that when you can, because when we talk, even if it's not a story thing, it does boost your mood. Always. Like it always seems to. And then it gets you back into gear. And sometimes, I mean, just as like kind of a universal truth, you need to kick yourself, right? Like, so for me, if I'm really flailing, I know that going for a walk is a great way to reset my head.
I do that.
Yeah, there's not really, I can reset myself pretty well, but like whatever it is that you need to just feel good about it, Dave, just know that we're here for you. Like if it's just getting me and Johnny on a bullshit call, right? Yeah. Or me on a bullshit call, or
recording a worst show ever.
Or recording a worst show ever. Like, right. Like use what you have to get something better, because we're like everyone in the company is here for you for sure.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I yesterday was a perfect example of just like, okay, I got to get up, I got to get out, and I got to go walk in, because I was thinking about something specifically and I needed to think about it, needed to clear my head. And the minute I walked out the door, my family came home and my son wanted to walk with me. And I was like, and he just talked about Fortnite for like the entire walk, and I just got no thinking done. I could very much use one of those deprivation tanks.
We had somebody that the company talked to yesterday that talked about a deprivation tank. It was awesome.
To the point that I pulled up web tabs and I'm trying to figure out when I can get in there. Yeah.
So
all right, episode over. I mean, Dave therapy session.
Well, that was only Dave.
Well, yeah, and I don't want to lose sight at all of the fact that this has been your most consistent, highest performing year since 2012. Like,
yes, and I think even though I am late on this story, I think it won't be like a disappointment like that one story that I didn't really finish last year.
Yeah, well, that story has become famous, and you realize it's our 1-year anniversary coming up of that story.
Oh, perfect.
The story was worth writing for the story internal to the company, kind of like an infamous cover that we have that won't ever be used in a book, but that was worth buying for the source for other reasons.
So what not to do?
What not to do. Yeah, no, that was, I think that was your, probably, I mean, honestly, your low point as a writer. Just,
well, after I die, you can sell it and make a lot of money.
I plan on it. I don't even mean like the quality of the story. I just mean where your head was at when it was written. And you can kind of see that. There's just a real defeated author behind those. But all in all, this has been a really
hold on, I got to change my Amazon bio to defeated author.
I kind of like it. This has been a really great year for you. And next year, I have zero doubt will be our best year collectively, meaning you and I, because all those boxes are closed and all we have is new, fresh, exciting ideas in front of us. So thank you.
Yeah, despite the recent troubles, I do feel on path, and I feel like I haven't slid back to my depths of horror previous year.
You haven't at all. This has been a really great year for you, and like thank you for being vulnerable in front of people. I know it's not fun to like talk about this stuff, but
can I put my clothes back on?
Yes, please do. All right, so Johnny, you want to go next?
Yeah, I mean, so I had an interesting year actually. It's been filled with more ups and downs than ever before. Actually, when you guys were talking about deadlines, I was remembering a internally famous time, at least for me, which I don't even know if these guys even remember. I know Sean took great mirth in it at the time when I said we were talking about deadlines, and I said I don't miss deadlines, bitch. Well, guess what? I miss plenty. I don't know what it's the nature of, I don't know, I suppose my sort of evolution, but also the fact that we're working across many different, I don't know, ways now. But this year in particular was a year that I kind of got stuck. We talked on an earlier self-publishing podcast about just sort of a creative low for me. It was, I don't know, it was really hard to get the words out. It was hard to get that mojo back. I actually adopted a project that will probably never be finished, just to try something different. And it took some time, and then it felt good again. But now, just because of some quick changes in the company, I'm actually writing something by myself. Not quick changes in the company, just like in the schedule. I'm writing something by myself again for the first time. And the meeting that I had with Sean, because he's not writing it with me, I did have to take about 15 minutes to explain it, and then we took almost an hour hashing it out once he understood what I was trying to do with it. And it's interesting because I always used to write by myself. And when we were talking with Dave and saying, you know, use the resources that you have as a support network, if nothing else, it's interesting because I'm a little dependent now. Like I'm a little spoiled. I'm a little like, it would be hard to go back. Not just in terms of like working with a collaborator, but also just in general. So yesterday was not particularly fun for me. It was a little bit of sad Johnny yesterday, which not everybody sees.
Johnny was he was totally sad Johnny yesterday.
I was not having fun yesterday. And
let me share my emo playlist on YouTube.
Yes. And it was just a little bit of, honestly, like it was just kind of a little bit of, I just want to talk to somebody. But then also being able to hash it out. And I guess I'm realizing that a lot of people don't have that. And what was kind of cool was Sean's not my collaborator on the project, but he is a creative person who is willing to get on the phone with me and hash things out. And I think that anybody can do that. If you know any other writers that you're remotely friendly with, that you can use those networks. But it has been interesting because it is, I realize that when I'm on my own, I do pants. Actually, after running into the trick this morning, like I'm actually going back and reverse outlining the book so that I can continue to go forward, and I'll try again to just write at least a sentence or two, just to give myself some structure, because I'm in this weird in between where I kind of want to pants and see where it goes, and then when I do, I find that I lose my compass. So that has been.
So the story meeting started with, I'm at the 40,000 word mark, and I think I just hit the inciting incident.
Well,
right?
to be clear, it was, I felt like that would have been the inciting, like I didn't really think that was the inciting incident, but that's the way it felt with my original framework. Like, this book is this. And we shuffled some things around, and I like where it's going, and there's a lot of ideas up in the air, but I can't imagine at this point not being able to kick things back and forth with another writer. So I'm continuing to plod along on that. Our recent collaborative project went like amazing. I thought that was just really zippy. I really loved the product, like when we were done. And I don't know, these are just the things I'm learning.
Yeah, I think that we do have a wonderful structure where, I mean, this didn't quite work for Johnny in this situation. I mean, we have the general story meetings. Anyone in the company can bring a story question to a general story meeting, but this was kind of a big thing to unpack. And I think that there's a real comfort that Johnny and I have just together. I mean, we have 6 years at this point of writing stories together. So it was just easy to hop on the phone and figure this out. But it's always worth whoever you have in your life that can like help ground you. I think that's it, right? And Dave has the tendency to not want to reach out because he doesn't want to bother somebody. You know, he thinks.
I mean, to be clear, I definitely bothered Sean. I messed with him in the morning.
Right, but Johnny's more proactive in that way. Like I mean,
my Slack said me.
Well, it is. I mean, between the two of them, Johnny is on the surface a little more selfish than Dave, but Dave's behavior can actually be more selfish than Johnny's, because if he stays to himself and he doesn't get the results and the whole company suffers because of that, then it's like, well, how are you defining selfishness then? It really is about the whole or about yourself. But Dave's actions always come from a really good place, because he doesn't want to put somebody else out. Or if he's feeling bad, he doesn't want to make somebody else feel bad. Or if he has inertia, he doesn't want to like pass that on. But like, that's the whole point of having a team or a family is. Now, I know that Dave doesn't really understand family the same way other people do, this word.
Well, it's a
family is the group of people you spend 1 hour a day with, right?
Well, if I needed my mood elevated, I would request a worst show ever. If I needed a specific story problem hashed out, I would probably go to Sean. But I was actually trying to figure out if we could wrangle Bonnie. Now, the timing didn't work out, because I thought there might be some structural issues that she could really help me with. And like, I mean, if I wanted just to kick ass like Twist or something, maybe Joel. Like, we do have different people with different specialties, and that's really cool to lean into that more and more.
Yeah, agreed.
I am looking forward to the next project collaborating with these people in our group that I do think will make it a much different, better experience. So.
Yeah, we have a project that we just decided on that we haven't told you about. That we do
shit.
You. Yeah, no, you'll enjoy, but you should be on that call soon. It's awesome. So for me, I started. Actually, is that it, Johnny? Did you have anything more to say about this year in general? No. Okay. Yeah. So for me, I actually started writing again this year. I haven't written in a couple of years as far as rough drafts go. I've obviously produced a lot of stuff, written a lot of outlines, done that kind of stuff, but not
edited. You edited and stuff. So you are writing and just starting your own thing. Yeah. Right.
I've done pre-production, post-production, mid-production, pretty much every part other than writing the full rough drafts. And I started that in May, right around the time we decided, okay, we're going to transition the company away from the smart artist. We're going to be doing fiction. And so like, that was my permission, I guess. It wasn't just permission, it was a responsibility. Now that we are a fiction forward company, I can no longer justify not writing fiction every day. That's my job. And so I just decided I'm going to write fast. I'm going to write hard. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure out the outlining process. I'm going to do all of that. And I don't know yet. I don't know if I can actually pull it off, but there's a possibility that by December 31st, I'll clock in 1 million words for this year. And I started May 1st. I'm writing better than I ever have as far as clean rough drafts in a timely fashion. I was hitting, when I first started, it was 2,000 words a day. Then I popped it up to 3,000 words a day. I'm averaging about 5,000 right now. And I'm writing 7 days a week. So they're
which is really obnoxious, honestly, because he's writing faster than I am when I'm at form. And it's just one edition. Like, I'm just writing.
And that's on top of all the meetings and all the other stuff you're involved in. Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah, he was like, I think I'll add writing to my pile. And then, by the way, more than you.
I never said that.
No, you do.
Do you want to show us your abs too?
I've actually been getting abs.
Oh shit, Johnny, look out!
Sean is the new Johnny.
It's true. I came back from the gym the other day and I was like, "Damn, when did that happen?"
Well, don't worry, Johnny. You'll always have better abs than me. That's a guarantee.
Oh, I'm sure Johnny's are substantially better than mine. I'm just saying that for the first time in my life, I can see a shadow of something there. So yeah, the thing that's been really interesting for me is that the better I know the story, the faster I write. I mean, these are all obvious things, and I've certainly seen them with other people, but it's interesting to be practicing on them for me. So the biggest takeaway by far is I am somebody who gets by on velocity for sure. I need stupid things like streaks. So I've been walking every day for, I don't know, 650 days, something like that, coming up on 2 years. And it's a big deal for me to not miss those days, because like I'll do anything. Like I've gone out when it's almost like it was real icy last year. One day when I realized, oh my God, it's 10:30. I don't have my steps. And I bundled up and I went out and I got my steps. I've told this story a few times that we had the No ROI event in Denver, and I got my 10,000 step at 11:59. I was just, because I've been watching movies all day and I didn't realize, oh my God, I need to get my steps. But that mindset, that Jerry Seinfeld, don't break the chain, it really does work for me. So I'm on like 180 days or something of writing every day. And that's made a difference. I know that I'm not going to drop that ball because I have the streak. Now, the velocity also matters. So if I write 3,000, 3,000, 3,000, 3,000 every day, I'll never drop below. But like the last little bit of time has been disruptive. I had a business trip, and then we had a bunch of things this last weekend. And then Johnny and I are going to be traveling for the next few weeks. And that really affects me. So I'm not going to be clocking any big time numbers for a while. But as long as I can stay consistent and get 1,000 to 2,000 words a day in between this next stretch, I'll be really happy. But then once I'm past that, I plan on just cranking for the rest of the year. One thing I've noticed too is that I need something to write. So because I'm not willing to take those days off because I'm afraid, it's very much like not going to the gym anymore. If I stop going to the gym, I go 3 times a week. If I stopped for 2 weeks, it would probably be 6 months before I could go again. I'm that weak. Like, it really is hard. I kind of need to just build that. And so those getting little, like I can't just take a day off. So there's been several times this year where I actually don't have another project to jump into. I'm still waiting on an outline, or there's something that needs to be finished off. And so I don't really have the next natural thing that I'm gonna write. So I've been very careful to have a couple of B projects. There was something in the inevitable world that I don't even know when it'll come out, but it was something that Dave had written an outline for a while back. And I wrote that because I was waiting for something else that I was going to write. I've done a bunch of nonfiction stuff, which I think we'll talk more deeply about in another episode. That's been really great. It's been a nice way to kind of reset my brain in between projects. But I've gotten my words in every day, and I think that's made a huge difference towards the quality of what I'm delivering and the speed and just the way I feel about it, especially if I write in the morning and not nighttime.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm sure we'll update as we go along, nature of the beast. So thanks everybody for listening. And if you want to see Dave panic for the last time regarding a summit, I'm sure it won't be the last time ever.
Oh, he'll panic definitely more.
Then you can go to the
in person though.
Go to the Smarter Artist Summit.
Watch me flail on stage.
Panic in person.
Will you float, Dave?
Early bird deadline to watch Dave panic is coming up on December 2nd. So get it before then. All right. So thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Adios.